Talk about that. Congressman Keith Ellison of Minnesota. He is co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and supports Bernie Sanders for president. He is also the first Muslim member of Congress. So, Keith, great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mika.
I've been at a loss this morning. Really,
you have.
At a loss, and embarrassed, really, for how we must seem, we meaning everyone else, and then Muslim Americans who should be one of us, in light of what Ted Cruz had to say. So I'll just give you the floor here and ask you to respond.
Well, you know, it's recently been Ted Cruz who's sort of engaged in scapegoating and hate-mongering for political gain. Very tragic situation there in Europe, in Brussels. We should be talking about how we help our European allies. Instead, it gets turned into a political football, which is really sad. You know, I tell you, we have a large Somali community here and a number of people who are Muslim, and we have neighborhoods, and I'm very proud of them. And I tell you what happened. Not too long ago, the chief of police of Oslo, Norway, came to the Twin Cities, and he wanted to know something. How is it that you're integrating people so well? You know, here in Minneapolis, we have a city council member who's Muslim, who comes from a Somali background. We have a school board member. We have two people who are Somali contending for a state legislature. And folks are opening up businesses and doing great things every single day. Well, you know, what Ted Cruz and Donald Trump and Mark Rubio and all of them have done at one point or another is do the opposite thing that Europeans are trying to figure out how they can do, which is to make sure that everybody can be part of this American fabric. So it's really, you know, Bill Bratton is a law enforcement guy. He knows policing, and he's saying that Cruz is out to lunch and doesn't know what he's talking about.
Completely.
So I guess that's sort of what's on my mind today.
Can I ask you then, just, I mean, I think the facts, everyone is in agreement about the facts and that this is a model for integration, but can you speak then to the perception that we have? Is there more? I mean, the figure that Steve Ratner had this morning is that 10% of all physicians in America are Muslims. Is there more work to be done in changing the perceptions about the Muslim community?
I think so, but I can tell you this, you know, you talk to Muslims, and I do as much as anyone all over the country, and they tell you two things simultaneously. One is that they're fearful, they're anxious, and they're worried about this political climate that Cruz, Trump, and all the rest of them have helped drive. But they also tell you their daughter just got into Stanford, that they're opening up a new business, and really stories of success. These two things are happening at the very same time. I think what we really need to do is just really understand that we're very fortunate here in the United States to have a First Amendment which says that there's no government, religion, and everybody is free to practice as they wish. This is the opposite of what ISIS says. ISIS is persecuting Christians and Yazidis and people like that. We cannot be like ISIS and then be better than ISIS. We have got to make a very clear distinction as to who we are. We are the land of the free, the home of the brave, where people practice as they see fit. All of us are part of this thing, and we've got to repeat that message even when people get fearful and scared.
Yeah.
And this is the time when people need to be counted. Stand up and do the right thing.
Mike.
Congressman, what, if anything, do you think Donald Trump or Ted Cruz could learn if they walked around the Mall of America on a Friday night or a Saturday afternoon?
Well, hijabis, you know, women wearing hijab. They'd see regular, you know, they'd see white people, they'd see black, they'd see the whole tapestry of America. I'd like to walk them around Cedar Riverside, which is that so-called Muslim neighborhood that he's so scared of and wants to surveil. Because what he'd see is tremendous hospitality. People would offer him sambusas, they'd offer him chai tea, and they'd engage him as an elected public official, ask him great questions. Would have nothing to do with Islam. They'd be asking them about early childhood education and how they're going to get their kids to college. So that's really the experiences that they need. But this is not about ignorance. Ted Cruz and Donald Trump are very smart people. This is about electioneering. This is about them exploiting the ignorance of other people. And so that's the real sad, cynical side of this. They know better.
Yeah.
But they don't want to do better because they think it's going to help them in an election.
Sure they do. Elise.
Congressman, do you see a difference in the tenor about American-Muslim relations from, say, 2005, 2006, towards the end of the Bush administration?
Yes, it's getting worse. I mean, remember, George Bush, days after 9/11, stood in a mosque and stood with Americans and said, look, you know, Islam is not the problem. This is homicidal maniacs who are using the veneer of religion to justify horrible acts. He was clear on it. He was right then. He's right now. It's really, what's strange is how you've seen this anti-Muslim thing sort of insinuate itself into so much of American conservative politics. Ted Cruz, for example, has a guy named Frank Gaffney as a top staffer. This guy is the moral equivalent of David Duke. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, he is a hate monger. I mean, the people who study this and catalog this will tell you about the staffers that Cruz has the very top echelons of his campaign. These things kind of run with the political cycle. If you notice, 2 years ago, Herman Cain was doing it, Newt Gingrich was doing it, Alan West in Congress was doing it, and it kind of just dovetails with the political cycle.
Congressman Keith Ellison, thank you so much for being on the show this morning. And along these lines, check out Joe's column in the Washington Post on this topic. It's entitled Ted Cruz's Harebrained Harmful Policy Toward American Muslims. It's really good. You can read an excerpt. We read